It's hard to tell, but what it seems that Egypt is following a paradigm that existed a couple of regimes ago under President Nasser, where the head of his security apparatus was, actually wrote a book, and in it he says the way to control society is to make the price of protest so high that people won't even think about it. So, for example, what used to be protesters would be either rounded up or possibly arrested and then released. Today, the cost of protest is that you could be shot at, you could be disappeared, your family members could be disappeared. So the price of protest is so high that the intent is to prevent it from happening. If protesters do take to the streets en masse, it might very well be violent. And it's unclear whether the current Egyptian regime or president understands that it is not in his best interest to continue to be heavy-handed. We don't want Egypt to spiral into the security conflict that has happened in other parts of the world, like in Syria. What we need to, I think, focus on is not what the regime might do in response to protest, but how the regime needs to understand where stability comes from in the long term. What we have not seen since 2013 is investment in the country, in infrastructure, in education, in anything that really benefits the lived experience of the average Egyptian. Once the average Egyptian feels like the country is no longer mine, you start to fall into a society that's no longer governable. And that leads to extreme uncertainty.